The best way I'm going to say this is it doesn't matter how many times we get knocked down in life because nobody lives that charmed life. It matters how many times you keep getting up. And that's really what resilience is all about. I was knocked down. I know many people who've had divorce, bankruptcy, loss of a spouse, loss of
a job,
loss of parents, and they don't get up. They wallow. They stay in that grief state for a period of time and they just can't seem to get out. So this is about getting up after you've been knocked down. And that's basically what the term resilience means, really.
What would you do if life hit you so hard that the ground practically opened up underneath you? What if something so dramatic in your life affected you in such a crazy way? How would you cope? I want to introduce you today to my guest, Linda Varisco, who has been through that and more. I look at this woman as a role model for resiliency. She has a life that sounds like something out of a movie, and I think this should be made into a movie. When I was researching this, my jaw dropped when I watched her other podcast that she's been on. So, Linda, could you just remind us, how did we meet?
We met at the chamber, the Tamarack North Lauderdale Chamber. And then I joined Toastmasters, and then we met again, and then we really started to connect.
Yeah, so we met at the Chamber of Commerce. And when you would get up to introduce yourself, you would say you were representing
Steve the plumber.
Steve the plumber. And then she decided to join Toastmasters, Club Awesome in Coral Springs. Linda, who gave her icebreaker speech, which is the first time you give a speech at Toastmasters, it's a 5-minute, and you just say something about yourself. So we all listened to Linda say how she met her husband on a beach in Cancun. And we thought, well, what a nice story. And then she said, reason why I'm learning to do this is because I want to promote my books. She brought her books with her so we could see the covers. I did not realize what was in those books. I thought I knew what was in those books, but I did not. When we were at the next chamber meeting, I got up and I introduced myself and I said, hey, I'm a podcaster and I would love to interview you on my podcast. It's called Golden Years Empowerment, where I help folks 50 plus stay strong, sharp, and thrive to 95 and beyond. Linda says, I'd like to be on your podcast. I thought, terrific. Let's do that. In preparation for that podcast, I thought, well, let me look up something about her books. And my God.
I didn't tell her anything about my past other than she knows I met Joseph on the beach in Cancun. So she was in for a real awakening when she started listening to the other podcasts.
That's my reaction. I was mesmerized. I'm here to talk about resilience and learning from our experiences to help us stay strong and grow. So that's my focus today. What happened to her is so extraordinary that this, as I say, is a made-for-movie TV. She's an author. She's an entrepreneur. She's a doctor of chiropractor. And she is a mother, wife, life partner. She's done it all. She's still doing it. So, Linda, the people that are watching are making time out of their busy day. They're setting aside this time. Maybe they're jogging, cooking, relaxing. Somebody's taking the time to listen to us today. Okay. So what can the person listening expect to change about their life? How can they change what they're doing about their life and put it into use in their life?
The best way I'm going to say this is it doesn't matter how many times we get knocked down in life because nobody lives that charmed life. It matters how many times you keep getting up. And that's really what resilience is all about. I was knocked down. I know many people who've had divorce, bankruptcy, loss of a spouse, loss of
a job,
loss of parents, and they don't get up. They wallow. They stay in that grief state for a period of time and they just can't seem to get out. So this is about getting up after you've been knocked down. And that's basically what the term resilience means, really.
I like that song by Frank Sinatra. I've been up and down and over and out. And I know one thing. Each time I find myself flat on my face,
I pick myself up and get back in the race. That's life. Yep. Yes.
And I've sung that to myself lots of times, and I have a feeling that's a background refrain in your life.
Oh, my God.
For sure. So what did life look like when you were running your chiropractic practice?
Well, my husband and I were both chiropractors. We were like the Barbie and Kent of the chiropractic world. We had our own business. We were very, very successful. We had 11 staff working for us at one point. We were just loving life. We decided not to have kids for 5 years. We wanted to just travel and play hard and work hard. And that's what we did. And if you came to the office, you'd be like, wow, like, look at them. They're like the Barbie and Kent of the chiropractic world. And we used to tag team patients. So I do really great necks. My hands are small. Joseph was a big 6'2" man. So he used to do the backs. He used to do the low back. We had a great team. And I still talk to all my staff that worked for me over the years, every one of them.
And where was this? Where did you have your practice?
Well, it was in different locations until we finally bought a building, which, by the way, I never wanted. I wanted to write the check from rent every month. And he took me to this rundown building, and he said that was our future. That would be our nest egg. When we retire, we would have that building. We were in Tamarack, Lauderdale. Then we moved the building was on Oakland Park and Sunrise. We just kept getting bigger and bigger.
This is all South Florida on the west side of Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
Could you tell me a little bit of the story about how you met your husband?
I had graduated chiropractic school. My mother bought me a timeshare because she knew I'd never stop working. This one year I was dating a bunch of guys along the way. Nobody really caught my eye. And I said, Mom, why don't you come with me to Cancun? So my mom and I schlepped down to Mexico, Cancun. And the first day I was bitching about men. And she goes, go take a walk on the beach and clear your mind out. I want you to come back and we're going to have a good time. This was the first day. So, my 26-year-old self in my string bikini walked down the beach, and I was catcalled by some people who turned out to be my future father-in-law and his brother-in-law's.
Oh, they were doing the cat.
They were catcalled.
And you went over to them?
No, they were kind of hanging out on the water where the water met the sand. They were talking. And I walked by them. I said, gee, I don't get this kind of
reaction.
Yes. So on the way back down the beach to go back to my hotel, he woke up his son who was sleeping, who had come in on the red eye from California. And on my way back, walking back, he came up to me and he said, hi, I'm Joseph. And that's how we met. I said, hi, I'm Linda. He goes, where are you from? What do you do? I said, I'm a chiropractor. And he bursts out laughing. So now I'm on the defense. What, you don't like chiropractors? And he goes, no, I'm laughing because I'm one too. And I didn't believe him. So I started asking him a bunch of questions. And lucky for him, he answered. And I was right out of school. So what's the triad of multiple sclerosis? I mean, stuff was just rolling off. And he answered. And then he said to me, stop. I took the Irene Gold board review. Now, unless you were a chiropractor, you wouldn't know what that was. So he walked me down the beach, and he met my mom, and he offered to go buy us some pina coladas. And so he did. And I looked at my mom. I go, that's your future son-in-law. And she goes, how much did you drink? I go, I didn't even have a drink, Ma. I just knew it. It was like a soul connection. I looked into his eyes and it was like, I've been looking for you. That kind of connection. It was magical. It was and he was magical.
I understand. He was a good-looking guy.
Yeah, he was a very good-looking guy.
Good. That reminds me, when I met my husband, we had the same, across a crowded room, you see a stranger, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So you got married, you started your practice together, everything was fine. When did you realize something was seriously wrong in your marriage and the business world?
It didn't come till later. So we were married 5 years, and then we had our first son, Joseph, who was just loved. My husband, he was an idea man, but he wasn't a follow-through man. So he had this idea. A guy from the school board came in as a patient. He's like, let's start a drug-free workplace. For those of you who don't know what a drug-free workplace is, it's when you get hired for a job, you do a urine analysis and they test you. And if you're positive for alcohol, cocaine, or any kind of drug-related stuff, they don't hire you. And then if you're good, you get hired. And then if you get involved in a work-related accident, you have to do another analysis. And if you're good, you're good. If you're not good, then they don't have to pay your workman's comp. This was back 20 years ago. This was the wave of the future. It's very big now. Everybody does it. So he started this business and he kind of stepped away. He was like doing the chiropractic and running that drug testing company. And he had to bring staff on, and he brings this guy from Columbia Hospitals. That's where they were going to do all the collections for the urine. So that was a very big deal. That guy brings his wife in to run the office. It was one room in my chiropractic office. They started this thing. He brought this woman in, and every hair on my back of my neck stood up, and I didn't like her. There was something about her that, you know, that woman intuition thing. I said, don't hire her. And he goes, too late. I already gave her the position. She started a lot of aggravation with my staff. She was a troublemaker. So as it grew and grew and grew and grew, I said to him, you need to remove her and get your own space. Because now they had people selling the business. And he did. And then one day he gave my brother a percentage of the business. He brought his friend in from New Jersey, gave him a percentage of the business. And then he comes home and he told me that he's going to give these people a percentage of the business. And I said, please don't do that. Just pay them really good for what they're bringing in. And he didn't listen to me. And one of our things when we got married was we act as a team. One person doesn't move forward without the other agreeing. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, as a team. And he went ahead and he went against the team and he gave them a percentage of his business. And what happens is they joined forces with his friend who had another percent, and now they had controlling shares of his business. And the next thing you know, he was presented with an employment agreement. He would have to go out and sell, and he didn't want to do that. He was kind of like the figurehead. He was the name of the company, and they stole his company. I warned him. I saw it happening, and he would not listen to me. We're going to have a squirrel alert. Thank you very much.
I have to say the same thing happened in my company with my husband. So it was a different set of circumstances, but exactly the same thing.
You felt something and he didn't listen to you.
Right. And then once you lose control,
right, it's over.
It's over. You are now gone.
So we're in the same complex. I was in one. So there was a knock on my back door. I opened it up. He didn't have a cell phone. He didn't have a car.
Your husband?
He stood there and with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And I go, what happened? He goes, I basically was fired from my own company. He was devastated. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm married to him. I have a kid already. Am I going to throw it in his face? No. I brought him home. I drove him home that night. Think had a nervous breakdown. He went into our bedroom, shut the door, shut the shades, and didn't come out for 10 days.
It sounds like a nervous breakdown.
I fed him. I took care of him. I lied to my family that he was sick. And the relationship shifted because he broke the trust. And 3 weeks later, after he was fired from his company, I was late for my period and was pregnant for my second child. So I decided I'm going to lift him up. The man you marry is the man you're going to be with the rest of your life. I believed in that, you know, the old Italian, you know. So I lifted him up again. We were involved in a lawsuit for 3 years. I brought him back. He was still a chiropractor. I brought him back to the clinic and I lifted him. And life went on. My daughter was born. I mean, we went through 3 years of hell with these people. We won the case, but we spent almost as much as we won getting the company back. So you know how that works. And fast forward, his father gets sick, some famous doctor in New Jersey, moves down to Florida and dies. And his father dies down here. And he slumped into what I thought was depression. So we went up, we buried him in New Jersey with his family. And then I came back down. He stayed to see all his friends from New Jersey. And when he came back, I did not recognize the signs. I thought it was depression. He was sleeping all day and he was up all night. I didn't really know what I was dealing with at that point until I decided to snoop. So he was always carrying this accordion folder around. And one day he was sleeping. I decided to go through the accordion shutter. Come here, boo-boos. Thank you. So you got another one? Oh. It's pretty crazy holding a squirrel, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm used to it though. I've had squirrels.
Oh, okay, okay.
And chickens and all.
No, they were my babies, so they're used to humans. So I went through this folder and I found a plastic bag with the money sign on it and these 2 ball bearings in it. I did not know what it was. So I put it in my pocketbook. I go to my office, my massage therapist of 20-something years. I go, what is this? And he's like, freaked out. Where did you get this, Dr. Linda? What's going on? I said, I found it amongst Joseph's things. Well, it was, and I can't say it on TikTok. It was when you drop a glass on the ground and it makes a loud crack. That's what I had found. I didn't even know what it was at the time. So now I knew something was up. Okay. So where is this happening? I mean, I'm home with him with kids. Where is this happening? So his father's condo. He had the keys. I didn't have the keys. So what I did was when he was sleeping one day, I made a copy of every key that I didn't recognize what it was. And I decided to go to this condo. And when I went in there, I was shocked at what I found. It was like a drug house.
With all the paraphernalia.
All the paraphernalia, broken pipes and all sorts of stuff. And I just stood there in disbelief. And then I realized, oh my God, this is what I'm living with. So like any strong woman, Italian woman on a mission, I set him up. So I had to catch him red-handed because otherwise he would have denied. You know, what does the guy say? Deny till you die, right? So I set him up. This wasn't intentionally. It kind of fell on my lap. I came home from the gym one night late, and he's standing there with the two little kids, and he's like, "Where were you?" I said, "I was at the trainer. I told you I had a." He said, "I have a meeting." I go, "Where did I have a meeting at 20 to 8 at night?" I knew where he had a meeting. So he says, I gotta go. So I bring the kids in. I read to them. I bathed them. You know, you read the 100 books that they want to read to go to sleep. And I took a shower. I'm in my loungy pajamas and I'm laying in my bed and I go, okay, I know where he is. So I went into the kids' room. This is something I would never do in my right mind. I checked the kids. They were both out cold. I got in my car, took my keys, and I went over to that apartment.
How far away was it?
Literally 5 minutes, less than 5. And I went to the back and all the shades were shut. The front shades were shut. I couldn't look in. So what I decided to do was I went into the back. Remember, I'm in like Victoria's Secret loungy pajamas and flip-flops. And I see that the horizontal blinds, one was bent in about 8 feet up. So I shimmied up the wall. Remember, Catwoman up the wall like a woman on a mission. And I peered inside. And there's my husband on top of a unsuspecting flavor of the day female with a porno tape on. And I found myself mesmerized. Like I literally stayed up there till my legs started to burn. Then I jumped down, ran into my car and bawled my eyes out.
Oh, of course.
I was so from the depths of my soul.
What a shock.
I was really, my Prince Charming turned into something, Jekyll and Hyde. So I stayed in the car. You know, that nasty bawling where you're snotty and everything, like, you know, and then all of a sudden it was like, vroom, something happened to me. And my sadness went to anger. And I took my freaking key and I walked in on them. That's in book 1, guys.
What does this book 1 look like? Why you hold it up? See what it says?
Girl with the $1 million smile.
So this is 1 of 3. 1 of 3 books.
So I walk in, I get to the back master bedroom, and I lean on the doorway. They don't even know I'm in there looking at them.
You're just sort of lounging there?
Yeah, leaning just like that. And then she spots me and she taps him. He's on top of her. She taps him and he looks over like, you know, he saw a ghost. And he says to me, how'd you get in? I go, does it really matter? I'm kind of here now. And then nobody moved for 20 seconds. I've told this story many times on TikTok. And I stepped into the room. And that's when she moved. She pushed him off. And I said, do you know he has 2 kids home and a wife? And I said, if I was you, I would get the hell out of here. Naked. She grabs her pocketbook, her clothes, and runs out the front door. She wasn't the target of my wrath. I saw red. Okay. I don't know what happened to me. I grabbed that towel and I whipped it at him. And then I got him somehow to the floor. I'm not a big woman, but you know, a woman on a mission becomes something you don't want to recognize. A tiger. And I beat the hell out of him. I only stopped because my body could no longer move. Then the stream of obscenities came out of my mouth, that superlatives I licked together that I don't even know went together. And then from there, I wiped the sweat and I walked out with my head, with my head held high. Then I went home, ran in, checked the kids. They were both thankfully sleeping. It was like maybe 10 o'clock at night now. And I do what you think you see in the movies. Like I go through the closet and I start pulling everything out, dumping his stuff into garbage bags, schlepping it to the garage, and he never came home that night. The next morning, the kids are in the kitchen making breakfast for them. They were young. They were 6 and 10. And he comes in through the garage door because he's got the clicker. And he comes in and he says to me, what, you didn't make me coffee? I mean, of all the things to say to me, I think he could have done better than that. But then again, he wasn't in his right mind. So he goes and plays with the kids and then he leaves. And I say to him, I'm never going to make you another cup of coffee as long as I live. And he leaves. And that was it.
You didn't see him again?
Well, I saw him plenty of times until I realized that he was dangerous to me and the kids. One time he came through the doors, the garage doors, and he looked like something that had been sleeping under a bridge.
He had just let himself go.
Now he didn't have to behave. He was living at the condo. He had unlimited money supply because his dad passed away.
And left him an inheritance?
Big time. And so he wasn't taking the household money. He was taking from his father's money. I'm sure my father-in-law was very thrilled that his hard-earned money went to that. And it was only when he endangered my son. I wanted him to go to rehab. He turned into something I didn't recognize. And that day that he walked in, I said to him, if any ounce of you can hear me that I knew and that I fell in love with, don't let your kids see you like this. Please. Smelled, his eyes were bloodshot. And he left that day, but many times he didn't. Little by little, he came less and less. I know he went into a rehab a couple of times, but it didn't last until he endangered my son one day. And I don't really got to read the book for that because it's a long story, but he almost killed his son and himself in a car accident.
I heard that on one of the podcasts, and it was quite graphic. So with that said, and I mean, a lot of people who may be watching are in relationships maybe similar, or maybe you know somebody who's had a problem with some kind of an addiction, and you're seeing somebody that you've loved who now doesn't act like the person that you remember. I was a registered nurse. I'm not a therapist, but I do know that sometimes it's tough love, and sometimes you just have to say, that's it.
That was the line in the sand.
Rather than trying to keep enabling or making excuses, whatever, there's a point where you get, for their sake as well as yours, to say, that's it. What happened from that point to where you got to being in front of a judge?
There's a period of years there. Okay, so he left me with this building. We went through a long divorce and we finally settled out in mediation, and he was a real bear during that because he wasn't in his right mind. I was left holding the bag of this building. This was about 2007, 8. Remember, the market crashed in 2009. So 2 of my tenants just disappeared during the night, left. And we had an $11,000 a month mortgage.
$11,000 a month. That's pretty heavy duty.
Yes, it was. And that's not including the taxes that I had to put money aside for that. And that's not including the maintenance on the elevator. You have to pay a company to service your elevator every time it breaks. It was like this around my neck. And at the same time that this is all happening, my medical doctor, we had an MD DC practice. My husband hired this MD. We were doing Medicare. So the doctor would evaluate the patient. Then we had PTs in there.
What's a PT?
Physical therapist, occupational therapist, and we had chiropractic. And the doctor that was working with us, it was part-time, gets involved with some sort of pill mill in North Miami Beach.
Oh.
And the next thing I know, he's taken out.
He's taken out, meaning somebody shot him?
No.
No.
Like he couldn't practice. Got indicted.
He got indicted.
He got indicted.
Okay. It had nothing to do with you.
No.
It was strictly him.
Well, it had a lot to do with me because Medicare was 80% of the practice. So we just lost 80%. So now I'm down tenants to pay this mortgage, and my medical doctor gets in trouble. So the guy I was dating at the time, Mr. Right Now, we call him. His name was Rich. Rich said to me, okay, so we sat down, and I'm a basket case. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Joseph dies in 2009.
Joseph, your
husband. Dies not of an overdose. He dies of kidney cancer that metastasized. So I went through $150,000 of his life insurance money like it was water just to pay those monthly bills. I was drowning. Rich sat me down. He goes, okay, what's your biggest source of income? I said, personal injury. He goes, I need you to go to every personal injury attorney that you and your husband knew over the years and start getting clients. So I did just that. I started making phone calls. I was on the phone with several different attorneys. Every day I was going at lunchtime to meet. They had come to see me, and some money started to come in, but it wasn't enough. At that point in time, this was the juncture that I made the mistake. At that point in time, I should have went to my dad, and I should have said, Dad, I'm drowning in debt. Joseph left me in a bad way. He already knew that Joseph left me in a bad way because I couldn't pay for his funeral. My father had to lend me the $10,000 to bury him and put him in the drawer with his dad up in New Jersey. And then I paid him back when the life insurance came in. I should have went to my dad and I should have said, Dad, I'm drowning. Could you give me some money Instead, I went to this one attorney that I had done several cases, and he goes, I know some people that might want to buy your building. So he calls this guy in. His name was Manny. And he says, I will put you in contact with them. So Manny shows up at my building and he says, here's where the address is. I went to see these guys in Sunny Isles. They started questioning me. I told them the story about my husband and what had happened. First of all, I had to be buzzed into their clinic. I had to be buzzed into another room. I'm sitting in a room with 3 scary looking dudes. One was bald headed. I'll never forget it. And they had like cameras. They were like watching what was going on in several locations. And I left that office and every hair on my neck stood up. I get in the car, I call Mr. right now, and I said, no, I'm not going with these guys. He goes, what was it about? I go, I don't know. I just didn't get a good feeling. And as women, we need to follow those feelings. So that night, a phone call comes in from a lady that I knew for 20 years, Roberta. I sent all my MRIs to her. She goes, I heard you met Felix and Andrew. I go, yeah, but I didn't feel comfortable. She goes, I know these guys 15 years. They will help get you out of this situation. So what did I do?
You ignored what you knew.
My gut.
And you went with what you thought you knew because you had a relationship with her.
I trusted her. I didn't trust them.
Yes. But would she have had an ulterior motive?
No, not really.
She was just duped like you.
Well, she was getting MRIs from all their clinics. You know, she was getting my MRIs. When you do a PI practice, you could probably send 3 a week.
A PI practice.
Personal injury. She said, Linda, just give them another meeting. That's what she said. Just meet with them one more time. So the next time they come to my office to see I had 6,000 square feet. I was just using a little portion of it because we had no more PTs.
Physical therapy.
Right. So what happens was they said to me, listen, Linda, we're applying for an ACA license. Now, for those of you who don't know what an ACA license is, that is a non-medical provider owning a clinic. He says, we don't have it yet. So we're going to use your tax ID number for a few months until we get going, and then we'll switch it over. And I didn't think twice about it because they told me they wanted to buy the building. They were going to pay $5,000 rent. And I was like, oh my God, that would help me tremendously. And I didn't see the writing I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know that I basically went in bed with the devil.
You were a rabbit amongst the wolves.
I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was duped. I was duped. And then it just went downhill from there. Clients coming in left and right. I couldn't even keep up with them. Never mind my own clients.
And the clients they were bringing in were
all car accident cases.
All car accident. Were they all legitimate car accident cases?
As far as I know, they were. But there was other things going on behind the scene. They were paying for cases that I didn't know about. They were ambulance chasing.
Oh.
And they brought this woman, Ina, wherever she is, and she and I started butting heads. I couldn't keep up with all the cases. I pulled them in. I go, where are you getting all these cases from? Because I've been in practice 25 years. I never seen this many cases. We're doing 411 pain. We're doing Google searches, SEO. So I believed them. And then 6 months later, I pulled them in. I go, okay, where's your ACA license? Meanwhile, all this billing is going out under my company name with my tax ID number.
I see.
So nothing was billed that wasn't performed. Everything was legit. Okay. At that point, I didn't know they were paying for patients.
We have Squirrel duties here. Yeah.
Thank you. She obviously didn't see the dog. If I was you, I would be on your way. She saw him now. Okay, Mimi. So that's what happened with that. And then fast forward, I got involved with them in May of 2010. And May of 2015, I see 10 black SUVs pull up. And I was with Miss Big Daddy, my massage therapist. I go, what's going on there? All of a sudden, like as if somebody stepped on an ant pile, all the doors opened all at once. And I had 50 FBI, IRS, federal agents, Sunny Isle police, state police running into my clinic. I stood there like I didn't even see it happening.
And you probably thought, well, I wonder why they're here. I haven't done anything wrong, right?
At that point, I knew it had something to do with them. They sequestered me to my office. It had to be because it wasn't me. I was too busy seeing patients.
Yes.
Right. Doing final reports all damn day and re-exams. And that's it. And that's when the proverbial shit hit the fan.
And so what happened? What was the moment you realized that this was now a legal situation and you were right in the thick of it? Was it at that moment?
I sat there It was the day my son got home from college, and I was so excited that, he's home for the summer. And I sat there. They sequestered me to my office. I had a glass of water, and I sat there and I go, oh my God, my life was going to be changed forever at that point. And then they took my car keys and my wallet, and they dismissed me from the clinic. They took every file. They downloaded all the computer systems. They were there. They told me to come back at night. I showed up at 6:00. They still weren't done loading up all these vans, and they finally left at 7.
Okay. So how long between then
Ugh,
and you showed up in front of a judge?
3 years.
3 years. So you had representation.
Had to
as an
get a
attorney?
criminal attorney. We all had to be represented by different attorneys because we were co-conspirators, they call that. Now I know that term. So Andrew had one, Felix had another one, and I had one.
And what was the charge?
Conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud.
Healthcare fraud. So what they were doing was really not legitimate. You thought it was, but they were not doing legitimate things.
They were paying for cases. The cases actually happened and the stuff was really built. But once they felt, the feds, talking about the FBI, once they felt that I was not the true owner of the clinic, that these guys were really running the show, all the cases became null and void. At that point, it was considered, the whole thing was fraud. And then they get you for postal fraud, because if you put
Check in the mail?
you get a check in the mail, or you send an EOB out in an explanation of, and it goes in the mail, then it becomes postal. So it was a federal case.
Okay. So after 3 years, what happened?
So that 3 years, I was like a deer in the headlight, Gail, because nothing happens fast with the FBI. So I just kept waiting for them to call me in. Then my attorney comes to me and he goes, okay, I'm going to need you to get naked in front of these prosecutors. I go, you think that'd help? He goes, not in that way, Linda. So I walked in. Talk about walking through your fear, guys. I walked in with 2 federal prosecutors, FBI agents, state police. They were all around this conference table with me and my attorney, and they started to question me. My attorney had warned me that they would play good guy, bad guy cop. And actually, I like the bad guy cop better. He was direct, and he was from New York. And he says to me, what's a nice Italian girl like you donating $10,000 a month to the shul? Do you know what the shul is?
Sure.
It's the temple.
The temple, yes.
So they were washing money through the temple. Okay. And I said, no, that wasn't me. And they go, yeah, we know it wasn't you. They knew the role I played. When they came and they busted the office, they opened the panels. There was
Cameras?
There was hearing devices on the phones. Everything was bugged. Everything.
They'd been doing this for a while.
They had been watching us probably for about a year.
I see.
So my attorney takes me out of there, goes, you need to plead guilty. You let them use your tax ID number. You're culpable. So what do I know about this?
Could you have not taken the plea?
Yeah, if you don't take a plea, then you have to try the case. You have to let a jury decide if you're guilty. And my attorney, Bruce Udoff, used to be a federal prosecutor down in Miami. And when he said to me, take a plea, there was no other thought in my mind, like, that's what I need to do. What do I know? I didn't know anything about this. So I took the plea. I went in front of the judge and I pled. Yeah, I pled guilty. Whatever they were charging. Yeah, the health conspiracy.
Medicare fraud, health fraud.
Yeah, it wasn't Medicare. It was conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud. So at that point, I had to cooperate with the government. So for 3 years, every Tuesday and Thursday, I went in. I went through files with the FBI agents and explained how the whole system works. They had tape recordings. And there was this one conversation I had on the fire escape of my building. It was just their office manager, the girl that they placed in, and me. And I heard that conversation. The feds played it back to me. So she was wearing a wire, which means, and I had talked to the guys about this. I go, I think something's the matter with her. She was like this, like she was mood swings, and she had a history of addiction. They turned the other cheek to it. But I think she got in trouble and she turned her bosses in. And I went down as collateral damage.
I see. So when the judge decided, okay, this is D-Day, they're sentencing you, what was that moment like?
It was an out-of-body experience. Now, remember, the prosecutors were telling me that I wasn't going to do jail time the whole time. So that morning, there had to be standing room only in the courtroom. And I really thought that they were going to slap me on the wrist, take my license, and I was going to go on. I had no idea what was coming. I got the hardest judge that anybody could ever get. He said to me, I got good news and bad news. I go, what's the bad news? He goes, you got the worst judge you could have possibly get. I go, what's the good news? He goes, he's my friend. But that didn't mean he could sway him. Everybody came, patients, friends.
There to support you.
Yes, I never knew how many people were going to be there. There was standing room only. Like the judge even made a comment, we don't even have enough chairs to accommodate. My mother, who was getting up in age, I told her not to come. And she said, you're my daughter, I'm going to be there. So he bangs the gavel down. He says, a year and a day. I heard my mother let a gasp, a sigh, a cry out behind me. And I just stood there like I was gone. I was like an out-of-body experience. And I remember him banging my leg and saying, Linda, and he writes 10 months. A year and a day translates to 10 months. If he would have given me a year, that would have mean 12 months. The next thing I knew, I was being escorted out of the courtroom by two ZZ Top marshals. They had long hair, beards, and they took me upstairs and they fingerprinted me. I wasn't really talking. It was the first time I think I actually left my body.
It was happening to you. It's like you were in another realm somehow.
I was gone. And they said, okay, you're done. You can go back to your family and friends downstairs. I go, I don't know where I am or how I got here. You're going to have to lead me. Like, I remember them letting me out and I was standing in a hallway. I know now I was on the 3rd floor and everybody was on the 1st of this federal building. And I found somebody and I said, please tell me where the elevator is, how to get to my family. And the guy basically took me in the elevator, pursed the 1st floor. He said, when you get out of that elevator, you're going to go to the left. And then I walked up to my family and I just lost it. I just started crying. And what I do remember is Steve coming at me. He got this far from my face. He had his hands on and he goes, we are going to get through this. Linda, look at me, listen to me, because I was really not there. It was the only way he had to get that close. And he said to me, we're going to get through this together. Don't you worry. And I remember looking at my father who was sitting down. This is 5 years ago. He was still like 85, 86, like this. My daughter came up to me, my son, everybody was hugging me, went over to my mother. They had to carry her out of the courtroom. She was immobilized with pain. And I remember my sister-in-law and my brother holding me. It was horrible. My best friend came in from Boston, and the next thing I know, I'm being shuttled into a car with my daughter and my best friend, and we're going back home, Ma. We're going to get your bathing suit, and we're going to Kathy's condo on the beach. And I go, does anybody understand that I'm going to jail? Oh, he let me self-surrender because my daughter was graduating high school and my son was graduating college. And he was kind enough because my attorney wrote a whole memorandum about my life, my husband's before and after picture license. What happened to me? How does somebody who's raised with a gold spoon wind up in front of a federal? I mean, like, how does this happen? So I went off to the beach with my daughter and my friend. And I remember them giving me a drink and playing backgammon. And then her family met up with us and Steve, and we all went out to dinner. And it was like, I remember driving home that night and I was laying in the back seat of Steve's car and my head was pounding, like the stress level of the day just hit me. And it was like all those 3 years of cooperating with the government finally came down to that. And now I had 3 months to wait before I had to self-surrender.
That had to be one of the most shocking moments of your life to that point.
I don't know, seeing my husband in bed with another woman.
That was pretty shocking.
That was pretty shocking.
But now you're actually taken to prison. You self-surrender. They put you in prison. What helped keep you mentally strong at that time?
Pilates. Well, when I first arrived, I was like a deer in the headlight. I entered on June 1st, 2018. You don't have the uniforms. So they put you in like beige scrubs and canvas shoes. I looked like a bag lady. Everything was 5 times the size. And when they brought me onto the campus, everybody's staring at you. 150 women. This is the camp. White collar. These people didn't look white collar to me. Okay. I never saw so much gold teeth and it was pretty scary looking. So they put the mayor of North Miami Beach, doctors, attorneys, judges in with drug dealers, cartel, first time drug offense for a certain amount becomes 10 years now, federal mandatory statute. So you have cartel people in with very highly educated white collar girls. It was craziness. They brought me to my bunk. No bars, by the way, in camp. No bars. And I had this very kind Black woman who was mortgage fraud with her husband from Delray Beach. And she took one look at me and she said, come on. And we walked the track. And she said, you need to get it out now. You need to let this go. Cry the river of tears because you need to be on your A game to survive in here. And that's what I did. We probably did maybe 7, 8 miles walking around that track, 4 times for each mile. I went back. And then I had to learn what count was, all this stuff. I lived out of a locker that was 2x4, 2 foot by 4 foot locker, not my walk-in closet. And the girls came and they brought me clothes. The girls in the camp, they wear grays at nighttime. But when the prison, like during the day, you have to be in your prison green uniform. We look like park rangers, actually. We had to wear the boots and the whole bit. And then at nighttime, you could put your grays on. And so I didn't have any of that. The girls from the chapel, they have the ministry called the Helping Hands. So they bring you toothbrushes, everything to survive until they can fit me with clothes and stuff. And I was forever grateful for those women who showed me support. And I was now in with the Black mamas. And it's very segregated. It's Black, Hispanic, and all the others. And my bunkie was Black. All her friends was Black. So I was welcomed in open arms and I felt comfortable. And within 2 weeks, I learned what count meant, what count times or when to eat. And then I used to walk the track. Every time I got upset, I would walk the track. And then my first visitation, I didn't know any better. So my family comes and I walked over to the vending machine, and we're not allowed as inmates to touch the vending machine. We're not allowed to handle money. So the guard yells at me, and my father, I could see him. I go, Dad.
Don't take on the guard.
No. Remember, I'm here for, like God, when he processed me and receiving and delivery, he said to me, 10 months, that's a long weekend around here. These girls were in for 20 plus years.
Oh my God.
So to make a long story short, I started a Pilates class for the women, and 4 girls grew to 5 girls, grew to 10 girls. I used to have it in the visitation room or outside. We had like a basketball court. And we had mats, and I would tell all the girls, I had a music box from the gym. I'm like, pretend we are on a cruise, look up at the sky. And I would take the girls away.
Like in a meditation or just.
Let's get out of this place and transform ourselves. And during that time, I started writing my books because now I had the time. I got a job at Unicor, driving a forklift and being a row girl. It was very interesting. And between the Pilates and my hands, because there's really no medical. So once they found out I was a chiropractor, my nickname was Doc. Once they find that out, I started, who was I treating from headaches, sciatica, and I had the best of everything. I had a girl next to me. She was a Spanish lady, Mariana. She was in for some drug thing from Puerto Rico. She wouldn't look at me, talk to me, nothing. Didn't even speak really English. And she couldn't move her neck one day. So another bilingual girl that was in my dorm said, could you help Mariana? I go, she doesn't look at me. She doesn't talk to me. So I just keep my distance. She goes, Linda, please help her. So we set up a little makeshift, because you're not allowed to touch in the camp. No touching. We set up a makeshift office and I worked on her. And she said, I pay you. I said, no, that's fine. She said, I pay you. So she paid me with cardboard, because we had to line the pallets with cardboard. So she paid me with 4 pieces of cardboard, I think it was. And after that, I treated her like 3 times. She decided that I was worthy to be with the Spanish mamas. And then now I was in with the Spanish mamas. And I gave back. I helped as many women as I could in there. And it gave me a sense of accomplishment. And it also made me feel good. And then I did the Pilates, and then I wrote my books. So you have an option to stay at the camp 10 months, or you can stay at the camp 7 months and go to a halfway house for 3 months.
What did you do?
I chose the halfway house in Dania because I figured I'd be out of there. I could see my family more. I would have a phone, Netflix. That's when I started watching Orange is the New Black. Hold on, guys. Come on. You guys, so everybody can see you. There you go.
Yeah.
Like that.
Looking back at everything that you did, was there anything, let's say, that you know now that you would have said to yourself then, that would have made any difference?
Yes, I would say follow my gut. Now, if I always follow my gut, and your gut never leads you wrong. So that, yes, that was my takeaway from the whole thing.
Just follow your gut, because you were, as we said, like a rabbit among the wolves. You had no idea that you were being preyed on. Your doctors, were they indicted?
Oh, one other. All the rest of them, they just closed the clinics down. So my clinic did $5.7 million in the 5 years. So $1 million a year. And that's what my restitution. So not only did I get jail time, I got a restitution of $5.7 million over my head that I have no way to pay back.
You still owe that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it follows you for 20 years.
Wow.
And 3 years probation.
So if you don't pay it back, it just disappears?
Yes, it disappears. But they find ways to they took everything. My 401k, they took everything. They drained every account I had.
So they got something.
Oh, yeah. And when I sold the building in 2016, that money hit the account. I had $333,000 worth of equity. It went in the account one day, and the next day it was gone. The feds took it.
So what was the very first thing you did once you left the halfway house?
Well, you have to work when you're in the halfway house. Yep. And you have to, 25% of your check has to go back to pay your halfway for those wonderful accommodations.
So how did you decide you would rebuild your life? What were the steps you took to reinvent your life?
So I was working at the time for a friend of my husband's who owned a personal injury clinic. And he said to me, I know you know how to read all these explanation of Bennett's. He said, I said, they won't allow me to do any of that. He says, I'm going to tell them you're front desk. So that's what I did, filing and front desk work. Come on, little friend. Thank you. And I did a lot. I did everything. I cleaned up. I purged all his files. He loved me. And he goes, what am I paying you? I go, $10 an hour. He goes, are you kidding? I go, no, because the halfway house is going to take 25% of it. So he paid me $10 an hour. At the end of the thing, he bonused me. He gave me a check to my name, but they didn't know about that. And then, of course, I had this job after the 3 months was over in the halfway house. I don't know if you want to know that one of the girls in the halfway house ripped me off. She went in my pocketbook and made a copy of my debit card and billed it to the square with her name on it. World's dumbest criminal. Okay. So they took her back to jail, by the way. She didn't learn the first time. She was in the same camp as me. Anyway, so I didn't want to commute from my house here in Coral Springs to East Fort Lauderdale. That was like a 45-minute drive each way. And Steve said to me, no, you're going to stay on. I go, I don't think so. Let me see what my alternatives are. So I stayed on after the halfway house. I stayed on a few weeks. And then I said to Steve, I don't want to do this commute. He goes, I'll hire you. I go, what am I going to do with a plumbing company? Because he had an office manager already. Well, you could learn how to do backflows and you could market my company. So I said, okay. And that's what I did. And then I built his company, Something Fierce. And then he started to understand how great I was at marketing. And here we are today. He doesn't have a little mom and pop shop now. He has a big plumbing company, a lot of people, a lot of trucks on the road. And that's what I do. I market his company and I market my books.
So when he hired you, that was the reinvention of his company too.
In a way, yes.
It took it. So the two of you benefited from that turn of events big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was there every step of the way for me. Every visitation. He drove 3 hours to Coleman, which is right outside of Orlando, in a place called Sumterville. And he would see me every opportunity he could, as well as my family. I was loved and supported throughout the whole process.
So tell me about these books, because it's really supposed to be one book of 900 pages, but it's turned into 3 books of roughly 300 pages each. What are each one of them about?
When I brought it to the editor, he said to me, Linda, I love this. I love this story. It's very transformative. He said, but it's too long for one book. People don't read like that anymore. So he decided to cut it into 3 books. So the book 1 ends at a cliffhanger. And
The Girl with the $1 Million Smile. There's a cliffhanger there. What's the cliffhanger?
Well, when I walk in and after I jump down from finding my husband in bed with another woman. So it ends there.
Okay. And then book number 2.
Book number 2 is The Journey to Mr.
Right. And this ends where?
When the gavel gets bent down.
Oh, that's another cliffhanger.
Yes.
And then the 3rd book.
Prison. The best part of the book is the last 4 or 5 chapters where it's my takeaways. What did I learn from all this? where I learn about forgiveness, about love, about aging, about grief, because grief is a big one. You can grieve because somebody dies, or you can grieve because they're dying slowly, or you can grieve the loss of a relationship. I mean, grief encompasses a lot of things. Forgiveness. How did I forgive my husband? On his deathbed, he grabbed my hand. He goes, I'm so sorry. And I said, I've already forgiven you. I let it go because you know what? If you don't forgive, you know what happens to that? Festers inside of you and becomes all sorts of horrible things. Like anger is stored in your gut.
Yes. And it'll kill you.
It will kill you. So I let go. And I never really badmouthed him to his children. How do you explain a 6-year-old about addiction? You really can't. I said, Daddy made some bad decisions. And right now, that's how I started it. Daddy has to decide what he wants in life. That was when I first kicked him out. And then he got sick on top of it. So he didn't die from what we thought he was going to die from. He died from a benign cyst that he had on his kidney that we were watching every year. We would go for a biopsy and it's fine. But then you start putting poisons in your body and that thing became malignant. He must have had some sort of symptomatology, Gail. He must have.
Yeah. But it was obscured by all the drug effects.
And by the time he came to me, it had metastasized to his lumbar and thoracic spine. He was done.
Okay. So was there a time in all of that you felt completely alone?
Many times. I always had a very supportive Italian family. They were there every step of the way. But did I feel alone as a Linda? Yeah. Left with holding the bag on everything. Raising 2 kids, the office, the building, it all landed on my shoulders.
So how did you take yourself from being alone and defenseless to resurrecting yourself? What was it? Was it a family member? Was it faith in God? Was it
I think it was a little of everything. I think my family was there every step of the way. I had met Steve on a blind date, and that man stood by me through thick and thin. Because there were many days, man, I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to face the day. And he said, don't let your fear stop you. Get up, get up. And I did. And I got up because I had kids and I kept going because I had to. And that helps.
Yes. Well, some people give up and try to withdraw from life, but you realize you couldn't withdraw. You didn't allow yourself. You had that feeling of responsibility. So when you look back at your lowest moment in all of that, what did you learn about yourself that you didn't know before?
I learned how strong I really am. And I learned to reach down and find that strength. And I talk about in the book, I put my big girl panties on and I grew up in my 50s and I learned. And now I'm a force to be reckoned with.
I can see that.
I do not let anything stop me and nothing scares me because I've been through it all, guys.
So now you've seen the little squirrels coming and going, which has been so much fun. You also written another book, which is called
The Life of Mr. Peaches. That was my first baby rescue squirrel story.
And it's a theme running through your life of you needed to be rescued, but you also rescue others like the squirrels.
Animals.
And then don't you promote or do you have a TikTok show about?
I do. That's what we're on right now, the TikTok. But my TikTok channel is more than just the squirrels. It's people have, listened to my stories. And when I have a baby squirrel, there's so many people on because they all want to see, feeding a baby. They're very sweet. I'll let you know when I have a baby squirrel.
Okay. And you called your first one Mr. Peaches?
Yes. They're all named after fruits. So we have mango that was just here, Clemmy and Clementine. Then there's cherry, there's melon.
And how did the first Mr. Peaches come into your life?
I found him on my deck over there as a baby. Wow. Actually, my dog found him. But before he could grab him, my daughter grabbed him. And I came home and I was like, what is on your... She had him like laying... And I fell in love with him. And so that was the start. I've rescued 11 of them now.
Oh, my.
And then I set them loose.
Okay. And then they just come back to visit and get their peanuts.
Yeah. Peanuts, almonds, whatever. And I keep them in my little enclosure until they're old enough to be out on their own again.
And you rescue birds?
I rescue birds, too, that people don't want anymore. And I rescued Mimi.
Your little dog?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's wonderful because when you can pour out love into another being, it comes reflecting back to you. Sometimes when people say they rescued a dog, they realize the dog is actually rescued them. Mimi's looking at me like she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yes.
She's my little angel. Come on, Memes. I believe that my mom sent me Mimi from the other side. She needed me as much as I needed her.
Isn't that wonderful that you found each other and you have such a supportive community, and people that watch Golden Years Empowerment are people that have gone through loss of some kind, maybe not as catastrophic as what you have, but maybe possibly more. I don't know. Everybody has different definitions of what is a catastrophe, but we're all looking for ways to reinvent ourselves. Because if we don't, I mean, we know that sometimes with the loss of a spouse, particularly the broken heart syndrome is real. The spouse actually suffers a heart attack.
Come here, Mimi.
With Golden Years Empowerment, my mantra is that, at 78, I am wanting to walk the walk, talk the talk, but I help folks stay strong, sharp, and thrive through their adventures, and hopefully to 95 and beyond, because we can live many lives as you've lived many lives. We don't just live a life.
Just in our lives.
We have chapters in our life, and who knows, maybe there's another life beyond. I'm a believer in that.
Me too.
We're all balls of energy. We came here and we're leaving, and we're here to learn something. This, in my opinion, is heaven. Can you imagine? Especially when we live in South Florida. That is definitely heaven. I'm from Canada originally, and I'm living the dream. So I'm so pleased that you were able to take time. Now, one last question before we wrap it up. Is there anything I did not ask you that you feel that you would like to let everyone know about?
Some takeaways. You want me to expand on that? Okay, so Mr. Right now, he's 10 years older than me. He taught me a lot of things. And one of them was get out of your head. Sometimes when we're in a loop of either depression, sadness, we play the same tape runs over and over. So he used to say, get out of your head and get into your body. Whatever that means for you to get into your body, whether it's taking a walk, listening to music, fooling around, jogging, working out. You have to turn this off and let this happen. That stuff will still be there when you're done exercising or whatever you're doing, but you can step back from it and have a little more clarity on it. That was a great thing I learned from Mr. Right. And the other thing he always told me was every time I complained about my frizzy hair or this, he would say to me, your imperfections make you perfect. You're uniquely you, Linda, and that's what makes you so special. That really helped me through some bad times,
That is so important. Isn't that wonderful that he took the time to say that? He obviously cared about you.
Yeah, he did.
You're so deserving of care. I mean, we all are deserving of care. We came into this world as little babies, innocent, and then life happens. We're carried along, sometimes just like you were, into the clutches of people that had not your best interest in heart, but you survived. More than that, you're thriving. Right. Right now, you live in a beautiful home. You're building Steve's business. You're building your books. You're going to be a speaker, probably a feature documentary, Netflix star, at least the author of one. And I wish you all the best. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk.
Thank you, Gail. We shake hands like a Toastmaster?
Yes, we all shake hands.
Good.
Thanks again.
Okay.